So we got high and watched Kiki's Delivery Service, and it was a very interesting experience because first of all, I realized what this movie's about, and second of all, I realized I don't like it that much compared to other Ghibli movies because I think it's less kino in a way, to put it in simple meme terms. Like if you watch My Neighbor Totoro, that movie is constantly expressing something in its visuals. Like, every single scene is beautifully timed and animated, and all of it is, like, communicating something visually. And I would say the same about Ponyo. They're both very similar movies. They're both lighter on dialogue, lighter on plot, heavier on emotions and what is represented in the visuals. Kiki's Delivery Service is a much more plot-centric movie. Like, while there is a lot of downtime and there is a lot of moments of just, like, letting the sort of emotions wash over you, it also has lots of little miniature arcs, lots of little stories of Kiki doing different stuff. It has a bigger overarching story. It repeats itself at times. You know, it really, like, hammers in what the plot is. But aside from the actual plot, which I don't think is that interesting, like, most of the dialogue is not really anything to write home about, what the movie's really about is depression. And that was what struck me the most, what I wasn't sure I would have completely appreciated all of had I not been high, and what really, like, sank in as, like, oh, okay, I understand this movie now. I don't necessarily like it more, because I still think that a lot of the dialogue's kind of boring, and I think Kiki's an okay character. Most of the side characters aren't that memorable or likable. Overall, it's kind of a weird and stilted movie, and I also really don't like the ending. I think that the ending kind of sucks. But otherwise, this is a movie about a girl who's... she seems like she might be a little bit depressive at the start of the movie, because the first images we see of her is her looking kind of moody out in a field. But she's excited because she's a witch and she's going to go on her journey. I think basically she's dissatisfied with life as it is, and that's why she's so excited to go take off and try to find a better life for herself. So she takes off, and pretty much nothing goes right. Like, the bulk of this movie is Kiki failing. It's her, kind of stumbling into this town and having nowhere to go. Her first interactions with people don't go well. People aren't friendly here. She gets chastised by the police. The one kid who's kind of interested in her is someone who she doesn't have a reciprocated interest in. This boy who clearly has a crush on her, she wants no part of it. So things aren't going so well. She manages to take up residence above a bread store, and she kind of is friendly with the owner, but not really. It's kind of at arm's length, and she's kind of doing, like, assistant work for them. But she takes up a job using her magic to delivery shit, Kiki's Delivery Service. However, none of these go well. The first one gets kind of botched, and the people are never appreciative who she gives the stuff to. Like, first she's supposed to deliver a toy to a little kid, and it ends up being, like, the kid's, like, it's a nightmare to get it done. She fights a bunch of crows, gets her ass kicked, and the kid doesn't even really appreciate the toy. He just sees it as a dumb thing. Then she goes to these old ladies' houses, and the old ladies are super nice to her, and she has a great time cooking up a quiche with them, and she's supposed to deliver it to this party. She gets there, and they don't even give a fuck. Like, the girl is completely unappreciative of this thing that her grandma sent her. And Kiki really gets upset by that. So, from this point forward, Kiki's kind of on a downward spiral. The boy who she likes they have a fun hangout where he shows her his bike that's also a plane that he's working on. But then she sees him go off with these other kids, including the stuck-up girl who dissed her grandma's cooking, and she's like, okay, I don't want to hang out with them anymore. She gets so depressed that she loses her magical ability entirely. So this is where we reach a real low point. She can't even use magic anymore. Then she meets up with this woman she'd met earlier in the film who's an artist. And this is where we get to what should be the crux of the movie. Because at this point, it's been like an hour and a half of just downward spiral. And honestly, it's almost a little bit uncomfortable to watch, because you're basically just watching the world beat up on this girl, and you know, there's never really like an upside to it. It's always just, it's kind of miserable. And it's weird because you don't really realize it's happening at first. It's only when you reach that low point that it really sinks in what this movie has been doing and what it's about, which is about, the depression that comes from nothing really going your way. So then Kiki meets up with this artist woman, and they have this, probably the best scene in the movie, which is where, she sort of receives a speech about inspiration, and this woman's telling her, like, basically you need to find something that inspires you to like work towards, to work your way out of your funk. You need to find a way to like to get your energy back, essentially. So what this should be is the beginning of a character development arc for Kiki, that like now she has a new way of looking at the world, and we will see her change her attitude in order to fix her situation, like clearly a big part of why she's depressed is not just because bad things are happening to her, but because of the way she's reading the situation, the way she's choosing to interpret things. She's the one pushing away the boy. She's the one who's mad at the girl instead of just being happy with the grandma. Like there's lots of ways she could change her thinking and the situation be fine. However, how this movie resolves is that a Zeppelin that has the boy on it, I can't remember his fucking name, crashes, and she has this whole, there's like a long exciting chase sequence kind of thing of her reactivating her magic so that she can save the boy. And it's this whole protracted action scene of her saving the boy that feels totally out of place in the movie, because the whole movie's been like really low tempo and kind of, small time. And now it's like this big, life or death rescue mission. But she saves the boy, and basically after that it's just a montage of everything's good for her now. Like, because everyone in town respects her because she saved the day, and, she's hanging out with the guy, his friends now respect her, they're all hanging out, everybody's happy now. It just kind of resolves like this event just happened to transpire, and it fixed everything. And I think that's really weak. It doesn't really, like, Kiki doesn't grow. There's no scene of her taking to heart this lesson about inspiration and, improving her life because of it. We just cut to a totally unrelated incident that just happens to get Kiki out of her funk because she became popular. Like, she just did a thing that everyone respects, and now it's over. So she didn't have to learn anything. She didn't have to change as a person. She just had to save the day. So yeah, I really don't like the ending of the movie. And, like, because I don't like the ending, I feel like everything leading up to it is weaker as well. Like, when you get to that artist scene, it kind of feels like we've justified this movie. Like, we've got a strong message, a thematic through line of depression, and now we're going to go in the opposite direction. But we don't go there. So now it just feels like, well, what the fuck was the point? So ultimately, this movie left me feeling a little bit empty. And I still think it's a good movie in terms of, like, it's well animated, it's charming, it's got a well-realized world, there are sequences that are good, but in terms of the overall feeling it left me with, it was kind of weak. And, I ultimately felt like this was one of my less favorite Miyazaki films. So, yeah. That's my experience with that. Maybe I'll change my mind if I watch it again in the future. Maybe watching it high made me think too much about it. Who knows?